The following interview is a Blanchard community production. This is Leadership Unfiltered, Community Conversations, an interview series dedicated to diving into leadership topics relevant to today's world. I'm your host, Sarah Hempel, a community builder, relationship guru, and passionate difference maker. Our aim is to hold a safe space for difficult conversations as we shed light on leadership around the world. So, join us as we dive into Leadership Unfiltered. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first episode of season 2 of Leadership Unfiltered Community Conversations. I'm super excited. My name is Sarah. My pronouns are she, her. And this month, we're going to chat about how creating safe spaces can really bring trust, empathy, and some real talk at work. So today I'm excited to introduce you all to my friend and my colleague, Randy Conley. Randy Conley is a vice president and trust practice lead at Blanchard. He's a recognized expert in trust and leadership, co-author of Simple Truths of Leadership with Ken Blanchard, and a key voice behind the award-winning Leading with Trust blog. With decades of experience helping top organizations build strong, trust-filled cultures, Randy brings practical tools, real-world insight, and a warm, authentic style to every conversation. I'm so excited to have you today, Randy. Thanks for
Yay.
joining.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. First episode of season 2. Yes.
Yay.
Congrats.
Thank you. So fun. And it's a topic that I'm super passionate about, as you are also. And I loved my time at Blanchard and just getting to know you and learn more about trust. You've really made this your life's work. And
Mm.
I'd love for you to share with folks, like, what's one moment early in your career where you realized how much trust mattered?
Wow. Well, one that comes to mind, Sarah, and by the way, before I even get there, I love working with you.
Oh, thank you.
So for anyone listening, we can just make this the Mutual Admiration Society. So
Perfect.
if you guys don't mind, Sarah and I will just love on each other a little. No. Um, But I remember early in my career at Blanchard, I was a project manager lead. So I was managing client accounts and I had a small team of project managers that I was their supervisor. And I was the lead project manager on one of our largest accounts at the time,
Mhm.
a well-known pharmaceutical company that I won't bother mentioning their name, but the project we were managing went sideways
Mm.
and the client was threatening to pull their business. And at the time, they were over $1 million account, which in our history at that time, that was like the top echelon. And my manager, Barbara Hart, she came to me on a Friday. Well, she actually called me in her office and she said, Randy, I need you to go to New York on Monday to fix this situation with the client. And I said, Barbara, are you asking me or telling me? And she said, I'm telling you. And I said, okay. So I was tasked with going to New York to meet with the client and our client sponsored team, apologize to them for what had happened, how the project got off track, and lay out a plan for how we were going to get it back on track.
Mhm.
And it thankfully turned out very successfully. We got everything back on track. Wonderful storybook ending.
Yeah.
But what that taught me was, as I looked back, sometime later, I looked back, I was like, wow, the trust that Barbara put in me to go and salvage this client relationship. And it was not like I was any bigwig trust guru or anything at the time,
Yeah.
and I was like, wow, she really took a risk personally,
Mhm.
professionally, for our organization by sending me. And that just, it stuck with me all these years later about how important it is for leaders to show trust in their people.
Yeah.
Now, one of my favorite quotes on trust is from Ernest Hemingway, and he says, "The best way to find out if a person is trustworthy is to trust them."
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've got to take that risk. You've got to first extend trust, and
Yeah.
until then, you're not going to know. So,
Mm-hmm.
that has always stuck with me, the importance of leaders taking that first step to
Yeah.
show that they trust their people.
What a cool story, and what a great beginning, because I look at you and I see, our trust thought leader at Blanchard, but obviously I know you had to start somewhere. So
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, sure.
One of the things that I think about when I think about trust is psychological safety. And I know
Mm,
that's a term that gets tossed around a lot.
mhm.
Can you kind of share a little bit around your thoughts? What's the difference between psychological safety and just being nice at work, creating a nice,
Yeah,
safe environment?
right. Uh, Trust, I'm geeking out sort of in the moment about psychological safety. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's one of my focus areas for this year and its
Okay.
relationship with trust. And they're like two sides of the same coin in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
So first, let's talk about some definitions. So
Yeah.
trust can be defined as the willingness to be vulnerable to the actions of another person based
Okay.
on your assessment of their trustworthiness, right? So you're
Mm-hmm.
making yourself vulnerable to someone else's actions. Psychological safety, on the other hand, it's a shared belief that you can take interpersonal risks, you can speak up, you can share your mind without fear of being criticized, punished, put down.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's sort of a chicken or the egg issue. Like people will say, well, what comes first, trust or psychological safety? And it's
Right.
like, kind of both. You need a trusting environment to feel safe, but you also need a safe environment to really extend trust. So,
Yeah.
they're like kissing cousins. I kind of think of them that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, nice, being nice is just I mean, we all want to be nice. We want to have nice leaders who are
Mm-hmm.
kind and create a pleasant work environment. But a psychologically safe environment is saying, hey, it's okay to get a little messy here.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to be real. It's okay to say things aren't going great,
Mm-hmm.
and you will not be punished for saying that.
Right.
A safe environment, psychologically safe environment says, hey, I have an idea of how maybe we could do this better, which means the way we're currently doing it is maybe not so hot. And leaders, leaders are the primary role models for creating that safe environment by saying,
Right.
wow, Sarah, tell me more about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never thought of that option before. Like, help me understand your thinking. So nice is nice, and you're in Minnesota, so you're very familiar with
We got a lot of
Minnesota
Minnesota
nice.
nice. Oh, come on in, cut into this lane. That's fine. Oh, it's okay that you just cut me off. Come on.
There you go. There you go. Nice is nice, hey,
Yeah.
that's great. But psychological safety says it's okay to be messy,
Yeah.
it's okay to have the hard conversations. And not only is it okay, it's welcome. It's
Right.
welcome. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot about psychological safety in terms of, like, I loved your example of in the workplace, but our lives are messy,
Yeah.
and we can't check our personal life at the door for the 9 to 5, right?
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
remember, you know, one time early in my career when I was in education, and my boss, my principal, had really created this, what I considered a psychologically safe
Mhm.
environment. And I was going through at the time my divorce, and it was messy. And I remember coming to work And sometimes I'd get a phone call from my kids or something would happen and I would just want to just melt down.
Mm,
And I remember her checking in on me and she's like, "How are you doing?" And I was
yeah.
like, "I'm not okay." And she's like, just go to my office. I'm going to cover your classroom for the
Mm,
next however
wow.
long you need.
Wow.
And that's not something like I pride myself probably is not the best thing to do. I'm putting up a really good
Yeah.
front that, yep, everything's fine. I'm good. Here's my smile. Um, and so to have that space to be messy, as you said, and step away from what I was doing so that I could kind of recenter myself was huge. And it allowed me personally to feel better, but it also allowed me to perform better in my role because
Yeah.
once I pulled myself back together and recentered, I could come back and do the job I was there to do that I probably wasn't doing
Mm,
a great job of the hour before,
right.
you
Right.
know.
That's a wonderful example. Thank you for sharing that. It reminds me, Barbara Hart again, who's been one of my leader mentors. That was her phrase when I first got into leadership here at Blanchard. I was venting in her office one day, about, "Rah, rah, rah, people are doing this or that or whatever.
Yep.
And she said, Randy, people are messy.
Yeah.
People are messy. And I I work with a lot of leaders, and I'll sometimes encounter those leaders who are sort of stuck in the 1970s, of like,
Mm-hmm.
oh no, people, you leave all that personal stuff at home. You
Right.
check in, you're the worker, and
Yep.
that's it. And they get frustrated that people are messy.
Mm-hmm.
And the experience you had with your principal at that time, I bet because of her creating that safe environment and the way she handled that situation with you, it increased your loyalty to her, your
Mm-hmm.
trust to her, your commitment to your job.
Yeah.
That if leaders could just understand that a little bit more, like
Yeah.
by embracing the messiness, by embracing a safe environment and building trust with people, you reap so much more than you sow when you do.
Right.
It
Yeah.
is so powerful.
Absolutely. Very. So one, you've done a great job defining all of these terms I'm throwing your way: trust, psychological safety. Nice. I'm going to throw another one out there that I'm super passionate about, and that's empathy. And I
Mm,
think that empathy really does play a role in trust building.
mhm.
But I would love for you maybe define it first, and then I'll ask my question. Like, how would you
Okay.
define empathy?
Okay. Uh, I define empathy, and I'm probably not going to get the dictionary textbook definition
Yeah.
right, but it's having an understanding of someone else's emotions and being able to relate and understand them.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, I agree with you that empathy is so powerful. And I like to sort of try to take empathy to the next step, which is, in my mind, compassion. To
Yes.
me, compassion is empathy in action. So,
Yeah.
and a mutual friend of ours, Nate Regier, that you
Yes.
met him, he's part of our community. He really unlocked this idea for me when he said, well, we were talking about, he said, Randy, look at the Latin root of the word compassion. I was
Hmm.
like, okay, explain it to me, Nate. Com, meaning with,
Hmm.
passion or passion, struggle, with someone in the struggle.
Okay.
Compassion is being with someone in the struggle. And it's like, I was like, mind blowing
Hmm.
moment, right? That
Yeah.
unlocks so much because empathy, you take it into compassion. It's like, it's what your principal did with you. Sarah,
Yeah.
I'm with you in this struggle.
Yeah.
I'm here to be with you. It doesn't mean I'm here to fix it all for you. Doesn't
Right.
mean I'm here to enable you and just let you wallow or
Hmm.
stay. in whatever emotional state you are, but I'm here with you. I'm traveling the road with you, and I'm going to help you as best I can.
Yeah.
And so, uh, once again, if leaders can not just be empathetic, but really take it to compassion and say, how can I be with you in the struggle?
Mm-hmm.
You have to embrace that messiness a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but you can also do it with boundaries, with clear
Yes.
expectations with people. It's not just, you know,
A
letting
therapy
work.
session,
Exactly. It's
right?
not just therapy. It's not
Yeah.
like, work has just become your therapy office, for
Yeah.
you to deal with all your challenges.
Yeah.
But it's having clear boundaries, expectations, but yet
Mm-hmm.
still embracing the authenticity of us as people.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, we don't check our lives at the door when we come into work.
Right. Yeah.
It makes me think, Sarah, like, where have you seen that in your experiences? Like, have you had any leaders that have had empathy in action, kind of taken it to compassion to that next level?
Yeah, I think about my leader right now, Kwan. So she is really good at when we start conversations, that personal check-in. How are you doing? And I can say, I'm fine. And she'll say, like, no, how are you really doing? Like,
Fine
right,
is
like
not fine.
there's that pause, but also being able to tell her, like, she's not rushing the agenda. She's giving me that space to answer.
Mhm.
Um, and share a little bit about what is actually going on with me and listening, what I like to say, listening to listen
Yeah.
and to support, which is part of that building trust, not
Yeah.
just listening to respond, which is
Exactly.
something that I learned from you.
Um,
It's my favorite story to tell when I think it was it conversational capacity that we maybe talked about this
maybe.
in where there's a three go home and there's a 3 minutes you have to listen to someone else
Oh, yeah.
and you
Yeah.
can't say anything. And I went home and I listened to my wife when she got home from work and she's talking and she's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I'm just listening." She's like, "No, what's wrong with you?" Like 3 minutes is forever when you're a talker like me.
Right. Right.
And after it was done, I told her I was listening to try and understand what you were sharing with me,
Mm,
listening to hear like what it was, where previously I was listening to respond, to fix it,
mm,
to make it better and not just sit in the muck and the mess of your day with
yes.
you
Yes.
and hear your perspective. And
Yeah.
so that's what Quan has done for me, like sitting
Wow.
there again, not therapy, but like giving me enough space to share what's going on so I can unpack it and then set it aside. And now we can
Exactly.
get to the business of the day.
Exactly. Wonderful story. Thank you for sharing that. And of course, I know Kwan as well, and I would agree with that. I mean, that's one of her strengths in my experience with her. And for anyone listening, I would say, man, double click on that listening to understand. Like if you're thinking like, how can I be more empathetic? How can I,
Mm-hmm.
sort of step into this a little bit? Listening is, we use the word superpower a lot,
Mm-hmm.
it truly is a superpower
Yeah.
in listening, in
Yeah.
leadership. So many good things come from being a really good listener. You build trust with people, you establish rapport, you build empathy, psychological safety. The list just goes on and on and on just from listening.
Yeah.
It's really amazingly powerful. And um, I think we too often take it for granted. We think, oh, just listening, like, okay, just pause, listen. We
Mm-hmm.
most leaders know a lot of the fundamentals, like, make good eye contact,
Right.
nod, be present, do all that. But when you experience someone who is really a deep listener,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you walk away from that conversation feeling s- so empowered, so
Yeah.
valued, you know.
Yeah. You're heard, you feel
Mhm.
respected.
Yeah.
your voice matters, which
Mm-hmm.
encourages you to continue to speak up in
Yeah.
other rooms and spaces and with different
Yeah.
kinds of ideas. I mean, it sounds so simple, but Quan listening to me share that I had a really rough night last night because of whatever, and hearing me gives me more power to the next time that maybe there's an idea and we might disagree,
Mhm.
to know that it's a safe place and we've built that trust that I can say, I actually was thinking about it this way and I was wondering
Yeah.
if we could talk about it.
Yep.
So it just
Absolutely.
builds on itself.
Absolutely. And some um I think some people can sort of look at that as like, oh, do I really have to spend that time doing that? Like before we
Mm-hmm.
get into business,
Right.
isn't that just sort of dwelling on, the person's challenge? But it's really not. I love what you said earlier was it allowed it allows me to take that and place it over here, set it aside, and then move on, focused on what
Right.
I need to do for work. And that's the key um, for leaders who may be struggling with, like, I don't want to enable drama or I don't want it
Right.
to. Because the reality is, it makes me think, well, why don't more leaders do that? And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's fear. It's
Yeah.
fear of not feeling equipped to handle emotions that come up, or fear
Mm-hmm.
of not knowing the right thing to say, or fear of letting it, just sort of blossom out of control,
Mm-hmm.
becomes a therapy session.
Right.
Um, but it doesn't have to be an either or. I think that's why so
Right.
many leaders shut that down and don't want to
Mm-hmm.
do that, because they're like, you this is work. It's a business. You can't be friends with the people you lead, right? They're your employees, let's keep it
Yeah.
professional. I think it's an and. I don't think it's either.
Yeah.
I think it's and, you
Yeah.
know,
You can have healthy boundaries and you
and
can still lead with empathy
exactly.
and with that trust.
Exactly.
Um, it reminds me of when I went to school to get my principal's license. And I remember one of the things that I feared the most was all of the rules and policies and what if this happens and that scenario and all of these different things. And one of my professors told me, you don't have to have all the answers, but you have to know when to ask for support.
Mm,
And I think when you think about leadership in that lens, there's a fear that
yeah.
what if I don't know how to help them with their problem? What if I'm uncomfortable sitting in the muck? What if? And I think it's important to know that you've got, I mean, every organization has an HR team and that people and culture team that has access to resources like employee assistance programs or other things. And
Mhm.
so knowing that there are other resources available and being able to help make those connections. It may
Yeah.
be as simple as, I hear you,
Yes.
and I think this would be a great person for you to connect with.
Yes. That's one of the paradoxes of trust, is that admitting you don't know something or don't have the answer can actually be one of the biggest ways to build trust with someone,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? It's like, Sarah, I hear you. I understand the challenge, and I'm not quite sure what to do with it. But
Right.
you can be sure of this. I'm committed to finding a solution,
Yeah.
right? So I'm with you as we work through this together, the compassion thing, right? I'm with you in the struggle. I don't have the answer, but
Mm-hmm.
we're going to find an answer. We're going to work
Yeah.
towards that. And when people see you do that authentically, sincerely, they're like, yeah, they're on my
Mm-hmm.
side. They're in
Right.
this with me, right?
Yeah.
Versus, just sort of shining me on, or
Mm-hmm.
placating me in the moment and let's move on and
Right.
get back to work. You know,
Yep.
yeah.
So we've talked, you gave a tip about listening, right?
Mm,
Which is so important. And not easy to do, but it's a skill that you can practice. And just
mhm.
like I shared that example, I would encourage folks, take someone in your life and just go listen to them for 3 minutes and just see what you experience. It literally was like 2 years ago that I went through that workshop, and it sticks with me to this
Still
day.
thinking about it.
But if someone is listening right now and they're like, I kind of don't know that I don't think my team trusts me.
Mm,
What's something that they could go back? I have a feeling I
mm.
know what you're going to say, but what could they go back to the office, go back to even home? Like if they've got, a relationship where they're like, I just don't think this person trusts me. What's the one thing that they could go do next?
Wow. Well, so many things come to mind. One is I would encourage some self-reflection to think about, okay, why do I feel this person doesn't fully trust me? And examine what behaviors you're using that might be causing that low trust with someone.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a key point about trust is it's behaviorally based.
Mm-hmm.
We behave our way into high trust relationships or we behave our way out of
Right.
those relationships.
Yeah.
Um, and so uh, I won't get into it here, but as you know, we have a um, four component model around
Mm-hmm.
trust. What is trust?
Yeah.
And it's based on the acronym ABCD. Um, People can look it up on our website if they want to learn more about it. Or I think we even have some workshops coming
We
up in
do.
Propel
Yes.
or
Yeah,
yes.
we've got some workshops coming up for building trust. And just a little shameless plug, if you're listening and you do want to dive deeper, there's a discount for attending an upcoming workshop on the leadership marketplace
There you
at
go.
the end of our podcast here. So stick around
All
and
right.
grab the discount
Cool.
code. But
Cool.
yeah.
There you go. So think about um, the behaviors that might be causing the low trust
Mm-hmm.
and then work on addressing those behaviors. If you're really brave, you may even want to ask the other person. You
Yeah.
may want to say something like, we'll just role play it here, like, Sarah, I would really like to improve our relationship, and I'm sensing that maybe you don't fully trust me in some certain areas of our relationship. I would love to hear your perspective of what am I doing or not doing that's causing that, and
Mm-hmm.
how could I address that? It takes courage,
Yeah.
and you will just by asking that question, you will instantly start to build trust with that
Build
person,
trust. Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
you're making yourself vulnerable
Yeah.
to them. And so, like we talked about earlier, trust is the willingness to be vulnerable to the actions of another. So,
Mm-hmm.
anytime you're making yourself vulnerable by asking for their feedback, asking for their input, um, you are building trust with someone. So those
Mm-hmm.
those would be a couple things, do some introspection, ask the person, consider taking a course and
Yeah.
learning more about what trust is and what the specific behaviors are you can use to build trust. And our building trust course includes a self-assessment that people take to rate themselves on the use of behaviors that align with the four elements of trust, and they create an action plan for how to build higher
Mm-hmm.
trust relationships moving forward.
Yeah. I love that. Well, this has been such a fun conversation, Randy. Before we part ways, I just want to ask if there's one message that you would have that you want folks to kind of hang on to, what might that be?
You have to make the first move. If
Yeah.
you want to have trust in a relationship, if you want to create a psychologically safe environment, you have to make the first move.
Love
If
that.
you, if you wait for someone else to do it, it may never happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think we're all kind of in charge of the trust that we want to see in the world, right? We have
Yeah.
to, borrowing Gandhi's quote of, be the change you want to see in the world. I'm like, be the trust you want to see in the world.
Yeah.
So take that risk, Um, and by you modeling that behavior, it then gives permission and allows others to do the same.
Wonderful. Well, as we wrap up today's episode, I just want to say thank you so much, Randy. It was truly a pleasure to have you on today.
Thank you. I really appreciate the invite, and anytime I get to spend with you, I'm happy to do it.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you also to everyone for joining in and sharing your time with us. And until next time, join us in the Blanchard community to unpack more conversations around leadership. Want fast, flexible leadership development? Check out the Blanchard Leadership Marketplace. On-demand courses, a fabulous subscription pass, and 15% off your first order because you are a Leadership Unfiltered listener. Just use code COMMUNITY15. Go to store.blanchard.com and start growing today.